Okay, so I thought it would be fun to make my own applique for a toddler girl's t-shirt. And so I'm going to make the flowers, and I'm going to use the Bernat Softy Baby yarn. Now I've already rolled my yarn and I use them for another project, and this is the leftover yarn that I have. I thought, well, what better way to use the leftover yarn than to make another little project with them. This is the yellow, and this is Bernat Softy Baby yarn, and it is in the lemon yellow color, and I'm going to make a little flower with it. And for my hook, I'm going to use a 3.5 millimeter hook. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to tie my yarn onto my hook, and I'm just going to make a regular loop and a regular knot onto the hook. And if you prefer to do a slip knot, feel free to do a slip knot. I just prefer to make an old-fashioned regular knot on my hook. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll get started. So you can hold the tail right like this and wind up on your yarn and get a nice, good, even tension with your left hand. And we are going to chain 6. And 6. And now we're going to join and make a ring. And so I'm going to slip stitch into the first chain we made. And so you can slide right in on the side, right on that side strand of the first chain, and yarn over and pull through both loops. And that is the slip stitch. And so now we have a ring. Okay. And what you can do too, if you want to, you don't have to do this. As we make our petals, you can fold in this tail and you can work over the tail so that you don't have to weave it in later. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to go ahead and chain 20. Okay, and just keep your chains even. $19 and $20. Okay, so I have chained 20. So keep it upright and facing you. Don't let it twist. And we're gonna go right into the ring and slip stitch. So go through the open space of the ring and yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just draw through the second loop for a slip stitch. And then just kind of tighten it a little bit. Okay, and then you can keep the tail right here and just keep it flush with the ring, and we can just work over it and weave it in as we make petals. Okay, and so that is the first petal. And so now we're going to chain 20 again. and 19, 20. Okay, so same exact thing. Keep the chain nice and straight and not twisted, and keep your tension, and go to the ring and go inside the space of the ring, and you can include the tail. If it's too much, don't worry about it. But if you want to include it and weave it in at the same time, it saves a little bit of time, and it's just kind of a nice thing to do while you're crocheting. So now pull up that loop and then draw it straight through the second loop to slip stitch and then tighten. And so this is the flower. So go ahead and make 6 more petals for a total of 8 petals, and I will see you back at the beginning. And then don't forget that you will have to slide these over as you get more petals on your ring. Feel free just to slide, secure with your left hand, and then just pinch it and just slide them. And that way you'll make room for more petals. Okay, I've just made my last slip stitch, and I have 8 petals going all the way around the ring. And so now I'm just going to yarn over one more time and draw through the last loop and pull up a long loop, and I'm just going to stick my finger right in the middle there, and I'm going to snip it off. And I always put my finger in the middle there so I don't cut the wrong one. Okay, and so go ahead and pull that tight, and there is your flower. Just very easy, simple outline using nothing but chain stitches. Okay, and so if you flip it over, we'll go ahead and take care of this now. This is the one that we have been weaving in. So this is, you can see right here the knot, so we just tugged that. This is the one we've been weaving in as we go, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off now. And then I'm going to weave this in this way, and I'm going to use, instead of using a yarn needle, which if you have one, feel free to use that one, but I am just going to use a smaller hook. Okay, so I'm just going to find the stitches, and here's one of the stitches here. So I'm just going to slide underneath those 2 little strands. And pull it through. There we go. And you can even do more if you want. I can do, there are 2 more right here. So there are little strands, so I can get underneath. So I can get right underneath the strands of those slip stitches, and then bring the yarn up this high so as to leave slack, which makes it pull through so much easier. There we go. And that way we just have a little distance from the knot we had made when we had tied it off. So we just want a little distance from the knot. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and cut that off, and when you pull slightly, it disappears. All right, so that is how to do the large flower that is in the middle of the 3 flowers. And what we need to do now is wash this and put it on the towel to dry. Okay, so now we need to do the 2 small flowers, and I will just show you one of the flowers since they're both the same. So I'm going to be using the Bernat Softy Baby in pink, and then my other color, the 3rd color, I'm going to use the lilac color. Okay, so once again, we'll tie on to our hook. And I'm just going to do my regular knot. And it's the exact same pattern, except we'll be using fewer chains to make it a smaller flower. So let's go ahead, and we're still going to chain 6 for the ring. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And join with the first chain with a slip stitch. So pull it through and through again, and just be careful. Sometimes the strands cross over, so just make sure, because the yarn is made up of these 3 little tiny strands, so just make sure that you're in the middle of all 3 of those. Now we have our little ring, and now go ahead and chain 10. So we're just chaining half of what we did with the other flower. So now it's just a chain of 10. And 10, okay? And then just make sure to keep the chain from twisting. Don't let it twist. And go right back into the ring and do a slip stitch. So pull up a loop there and make sure you keep a good tension, and you can work that tail in again as you crochet, and just pull it through for that slip stitch, tighten it a little bit, and there you have your first petal. Okay, so go ahead and make 7 more petals for a total of 8 petals, chaining 10 for each petal. Okay, I've just completed my last petal, and now I'm just going to tie it off. I'm going to pull up a long loop. I'm going to put my finger in the middle so that I don't cut the wrong one, and cut it off. Okay, and pull it tight. Great. And I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm going to weave in the ends. This one has already been woven in. I did it as I was making the petals. And then I'm going to just take my smaller hook and find underneath a couple of the slip stitches that I made on this side of the flower. So I'm just going to get underneath like that, leave some slack here, so come to near the end, and that way it'll hold on to it better. And we'll just wiggle our way all the way through, just like that. And then cut off the extra. And then when you pull it, it just disappears. And so this is how to make the smaller flower, which is 10 chains for each petal. So now that we have both flowers, we'll do one more in the purple so that we can have 3 flowers. So we'll have the large one in the middle and a small flower on each side. And so I'm going to use the lilac for that. And then we'll take them to the sink, and I'm just running cold water over them to just soak them. And then I'm just gonna squeeze them dry a little bit and then put them on a towel to shape them. Okay, so now we're going to make the petals and stem, and I'm just tying a regular old-fashioned knot right like that. Okay, and then I always just put the tail over this way and hold it this way. So go ahead and wind up onto your hand there for tension. And we are going to chain 11. So go ahead and make 11 chains. This is 10 and this is 11. Okay, and so now we are going to do a picot stitch in the second chain from the hook. And so as you remember, so this is the chain you're working out of. So you can see, your loop is coming out. And so you are going to slide into this chain, the second chain from the hook, and we are going to do a slip stitch. So slide in there, and I am just staying on the side of the strand here, just on this side of the chain. Yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just kind of adjust things if you need to, and then bring that loop through the second loop, and you can use your thumb to kind of bring it down, and that is a picot stitch. And now we're going to chain another 10 and 10. Okay, and keeping everything facing you, don't let anything get twisted. Come over and slip stitch in that very first chain. And so that is the first petal. So now we're going to do the second one. So again, we're going to chain 11, and that is 11. And again, we're going to do a picot stitch in the second chain from the hook. So not where we're coming out of, but right here. So I'm going to slide right on the side of that loop there, and yarn over and pull up a loop. Just kind of get things evened out, and grab it and continue on through with my slip stitch. I'm using my left thumb to kind of pull down the picot, because otherwise you can see there can become a large gap right here, and I'm trying to avoid that, and I'm trying to keep it mostly a ball, or just a ball of yarn here, just a cluster. So that's the picot. And so now we're going to do another 10 chains. And there's 10. And so keeping everything straight and facing you, no twisting, you're going to go back to the first chain of this chain 10, which is, you can see, is right here. So just find that side loop, okay, and keep your tension even. Yarn over and slip stitch through that first chain of the second leaf, and just pull all the way through. And so now we're looking at our leaves upside down. And so what I want you to do now is I want you to spread the leaves a little bit here, but just somewhere in this little V shape area right here, find a strand, and I'm gonna do right here. This looks like it's the side of the very last chain of the second chain 10. And then I'm going to bring my yarn over this way, and I'm going to rotate the leaves this way and do a slip stitch right here. And just kind of pull it. And I'm continuing to rotate this way. And now my leaves are facing upward. And now I'm going to chain 11. this is 11, and I'm going to pull up a long loop and cut it off. And just tighten that a little bit. And there it is, my little leaves and stem for the flower. And so I like to weave things in early instead of waiting till the very end with everything. So I'm going to go ahead and weave this in. And so I'm just going to take my smaller hook again and just find a couple areas. There's a loop right here that I can get into, and use your fingernails and fingers. There's another loop. So just giving some distance between the knot and where you'll be cutting it off. And again, give yourself some slack and just pull through, and then we can cut it off now. Okay, great. And then for the stem, pulling it tight has made the knot, and so I am going to cut a little bit above the knot since there's no place to really weave it in. I'm just going to do like that, and that way the knot is safe. There's a little bit extra here, and you can even tighten it a little bit more just to make sure. And then when the flower is in place, it will cover this. And then go ahead and soak this in cold water and put it on your towel and shape it up a little bit and let it dry. Now, if you want to write this down, for the smaller set of leaves and the stem, it's much like what we did with the smaller flower. We're just cutting everything in half. So this first chain here is going to be a chain 6, picot, chain 5, and then over here, and then remember slip stitch right here, and then chain 6, picot stitch and second chain from hook, and then you will be chaining 5. And then you'll do the slip stitch again like you did in the first chain of this leaf. And then you will slip stitch in the top middle, whatever strand you choose. And as you do that slip stitch, you will be rotating the leaves. And then when you get to an upright position, then go ahead and chain 6. And then finish it off. And that will make the smaller set of leaves and stem. And so go ahead and just play around with it. And if you want to use this embroidery thread, then this would make a much daintier, tighter chain, which would make smaller flowers, depending on what style of t-shirt you were wanting to make, in case the regular yarn that was used in the previous section of the video is a little too big or bulky for the t-shirt or whatever you are doing. So if you're doing a onesie or something like that and you need something a little bit daintier and smaller, then this embroidery thread would work out perfectly for that. So I have laid them out exactly how I want them on my t-shirt. And I'm just zooming in a little bit just to show you how I'm going to go about doing this. Okay, so first of all, I have a damp paper towel to basically wipe my fingers, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be I'm going to peel up sections, and put the adhesive, and then I'm going to just dab it in place with my finger. And so every time I do that, I'm gonna wipe off any extra that I might get on my fingers, because what I don't wanna do is have an accumulation of material all of a sudden all over my fingers and start making a big mess of things. For the adhesive, I'm going to use Fabri-Tac, and I got this from Joann Fabrics. It bonds fabrics, lace, glass, leather, woods, and trim. It's invisible fabric glue, so it should disappear and not show when it dries. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna try to move fairly quickly. And also I'm going to be wiping the tip periodically as I go as well. So I'm just going to get this started, and I'm going to put some right here. And I'm just gonna try to smear it around evenly. Right like that, and I'm going to just go ahead and put it right there and just tack it down. Okay. And now I see that it is where I want it to be still. So I'm going to tack this one in place as well. And sometimes it strings, so just want to be careful. And go ahead and tack it down. And I see a little clear glob there. I'm just gonna wipe that away with the lid and wipe that off. And now we'll go ahead and do this flower stem. So just kind of pinning the stem part down with my index finger and just lifting enough to get the fabric glue right there. Okay. Okay, and it's stringing a little bit, so I'm just gonna brush it with my finger. Try not to get too much on my fingers, keeping yourself clean as you go, because really just doing sections, little sections, you're not in this mad rush, so you don't have to be stressed out about it. Just do a little bit at a time and clean up afterward, and you should keep everything very neat and very clean. I'm going to just slide the flower part up a little bit so that I can see the full stem. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tack down the leaves. So keep it wide open. Keep the leaf open as best you can and hold on to it as little as you can. And go ahead and just, I think we'll start here. That way we won't be stringing back and forth. And just dab the fabric glue all along the chain. And over, and stroke it down this way. And that way you're not getting little spider webs across your, okay? And there's a little one right there, not too bad. And then gently roll it into place and tap it down. Make sure that it comes in complete contact with the t-shirt. And if you want to, please practice. Make a practice flower, make a practice stem, and use an old piece of fabric that you don't need or care about, and practice this before doing it on your final t-shirt. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just try to evenly distribute the adhesive. Remember, get the little picot area and come back down this side of the chain all the way to the end. And then kind of make it big like this, like let it open itself back up again. and then tap it down. And make sure that the entire chain is coming into contact with the shirt. And I'm going to use the lid. I see a little glob here that I want to correct now. And I'm just brushing it along the chain to make it disappear. So I'm just going to gently pull this back, and I know I'm a little off camera, but I think you can see what I'm doing here. Again, just right down the chain. And then I'm going to make sure it stays straight, so I'm going to go ahead and guide it straight. And then just gently pushing it into the fabric, just very gently. So I'm going to do the rest of the stems, and then we'll do the flower together. Okay, so I'm going to do like how I did with the middle of the stems, and I'm going to attach the circle first. So I'm just going to peel it back like this, and I'm going to put the adhesive on just the ring. To tack it into place. And then I will do the petals after, just like I did the leaves on the stem portion. Okay, so that looks like a good amount. And now I am going to actually lift it up and make sure that this sits right here. And that way it covers and connects to the top of the stem. And now I'm going to push everything down to make full contact with the fabric of the t-shirt, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to do the little ones, and then we'll go back to this one and do the petals. Okay, so all 3 flowers have been tacked into place with adhesive around the center ring. And now we're just gonna do the petals, and that's all there is to it. And this is the other t-shirt, and it's got a little tie in the front, so I wanted something that was a little bit more daintier. I did the embroidery thread, and I think it makes it look very dainty and feminine for this particular style of t-shirt. That concludes this video for the Crochet Flower Applique Toddler t-shirt. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to seeing you in the next project.